Okay, hello. Today we are going to talk about the profitability triangle. That's what I'm calling it. And two things to know. One, this is mainly for service businesses. So if you're not in a service business, you could get something out of this, but if you're definitely if you are a service business, you want to talk about it. And this is a profitability triangle per project. So I'm not talking right now about your whole business profitability. Granted, if you can manage this profitability triangle, you're going to get to really a highly profitable business as if you focus on per project. But these are the two things to know. We're talking about service businesses today and per project. So here's my profitability triangle. And you have to hit all three of these points to have a profitable project. Price, scope. Oh, come on. Scope and budget. So, couple things. One, oftentimes we are so busy and we are so hungry for business. We think, let's throw out a price, then we'll figure out scope and we'll make budgets fit in there. So typically we go price to scope to budget. Okay. And then we hope we make money. So that's okay. Game of hope, not a game of high probability. So what I'm advocating for is what I call my never fail profitability process. Yeah, I know it sounds super campy, but go with me. So never fail profitability. And again, let's remember this is per project and for service businesses. So the first step, instead of going, let's throw out a price, we'll figure out the scope, and then we'll have a budget. First and foremost, clarity of scope is so important. Okay? Because this is where we can get eaten alive in terms of our profitability, right? So what I'm going to say about this is I'm going to take an example of what we do. So we do something called a financial systems analysis, FSA for short. And what we do with any of our special projects is we go line by line of what's expected from that project. So there's a client interview, there's a there's a data hunt in terms of systems, there's a report compilation, there is a presentation, there's recommendations, right? So there's all these places and we're like, okay, this is clarity of scope. Now we ask ourselves, where can our scope start creeping? Well, the client interview is pretty thorough. We pretty much know what's expected there, but maybe it's like, oh, you need to talk to so-and-so about that. So we could potentially have an extra interview. The data hunt, it could be that we think there are maybe 3 core systems, but they're actually 5, right? The report compilation, maybe, well, that's actually pretty much standard for us. So maybe not there, but maybe this recommendation, right? Maybe we come down here and there are recommendations on this financial systems analysis, and one's maybe just a journal entry to correct something. Well, that wouldn't take too much time. It's not really in our scope, but we're going to do it anyway. Then maybe there's like one little account on the balance sheet that needs cleaned up, and we think, again, it won't take that long. Let's do that. So then all of a sudden, this FSA that we thought was really clear in scope, we've broken those boundaries with an extra interview and maybe 5 processes and a couple recommendations that we just take care of. So understanding your scope, number 1, and being really clear on the places that your scope could creep is really important. Okay. So then let's go to the second place that we go in this profitability triangle. And it's what I call truthful time budgets. And there are 2 ways we can fall down here. So the first is that we can be implementation optimists. And this is my way of saying we suck at estimating time. Okay, so we think that to plan a party, it's going to take an hour and it takes 4 days, right? So a lot of us are implementation optimists. And so we just aren't really truthful with ourselves on how long something's going to take. The other way that we're not truthful is we have this death by 1,000 cuts. And what I mean by that is, let's go back to our FSA. Okay. Well, we know that it's going to be a 6-hour interview. That's what we've said. We know it's going to be a 6-hour day of interviews and data hunts. But what we're not thinking about is scheduling the interviews. So we think about this big bucket. So we have this big bucket of time. But we don't think about scheduling or maybe rescheduling or prep time or travel time, right? Or a variety of other things. So maybe this is 15 minutes and this is 20 minutes and this is 30 minutes and this is whatever, but it could all add up. So our 6 hours actually equal 8 because we've done a death by 1,000 cuts. So first is clarity of scope. Second is truthful and like brutally truthful time budgets. And the last thing we do on our never fail profitability is value-based pricing. Now, what most of us in the service industry do we do our salary, our salaries, plus our overhead, plus maybe a little bit of a percentage equals our rates. And I'm not saying that's not a good floor, but most of us think, this is not our floor. It's actually our ceiling. So it's a change in mentality. So it's no longer the ceiling, it's now the floor. Because really what we should be doing is we should use this floor of this salary plus overhead plus percentage equals rates. But then we need to add that to value. Like, what's the value? So going back to this FSA, so this equals our price, right? So our floor may be $250 per hour for the FSA work, right? But then there's this value. So what if we uncover theft? What if we uncover automation, places that are easy to do? What if we uncover design element, like data design that helps? So these could be 10x or 20x value to this 250 from all these ways that we could see into making their business better. Now, we can't take all this value, right? Because we have to provide them value. That's what we buy things for. But can we take 20% of that value or 30% or maybe 50%, right? So what's the value? And this is per client, per project. So it could feel a little subjective, but this is really important because the value you provide is not just this hourly. It's not just this. It's all this too. Okay. So this is my surefire, never fail profitability process. And if you go through this process every time you price a project, every time you price a recurring something, you will always be profitable. Now, there are a couple things I want to talk about. So we're going to talk about enhancements to this process. Okay. So the first enhancement is profitability analysis after every project. Okay. Because especially when you start using this system, it's going to feel really awkward, and you're going to need the data to help you keep going. Okay. So And you're going to find places where you did well and you didn't do well, right? And you can find those places where you're not scoping properly, budgeting properly, or pricing properly, right? So this is huge. And analysis. That's your data loop. That's your data loop back to do better. Second is effective time management techniques for your team. So if you are not profitable, but your team is telling you that they are off the wall busy, they are probably struggling with time management. So do they need time blocking? Do they need to use the Pomodoro technique? Do you need to institute a no meeting day where it's just deep work, right? So like, what effective time management systems are you creating and training your team on as an enhancement? And then third, I'm just calling the bucket of iterative enhancements. So this is something like a one-off special project becoming a plug and play, right? Where you did it once, but then you realized you can do it over and over and over again for different clients, right? So that's an iterative enhancement. New tech to support a process or project is an iterative enhancement. New structures, right? Maybe you add in, and this could include team members, maybe you add in project administrators or project managers, right? So what other structures are you helping build? So there you go. To recap really quickly, here's your profitability triangle. We usually do price, scope, budget. Really, we should do scope, budget, price. Okay? That's what we should do. And so that's my never fail profitability process. Clarity of scope, brutally truthful time budgets, and value-based pricing. And then I've got these 3 enhancements down here of analysis, time management, and iteration. So I hope you enjoyed this SG Soapbox. It was a long one. Thanks so much.